Lugere Yetiga Kaya Wuna Chita Dhamma Kore Shukwinche Ayojidega Shukwe Ayodega Kaya Ha Shazam Hulu Tugo Yogina Uzapi Mapo Buddha Jare Holy Yoga Yotema Leve Miga Yojiri Mira Yojiri Namushi Reva Miga between Avote do Wayotara Ediga Savido Shupaya Edition Shazam Yojiri Reva Leve Wayo Kore Yoga Kuliga Dogari Dinari Shadari body. Taria Miazu, Shazum Lakita. Yatavada was a bini with those who read Madan Ayabody. Shazu Yosi, Shada Yoti them, however, Shazu Wayo Yoku is a baby of Makea. One by side Chineka, one by side below. Holy Paylights of a lady. So really takes a bit of money. A new personality changed it out. From Mantata Shumahu changed it out. From Mantata Shumahu Kure Te Kurega Atabi Tamatano City Malubia. The Buddha Asamushia made. A day they pour near a pound per muma. Chocolate pour on it, Edis, sickly, Yoga or don't hour. The Alubasana a take good hoover. Is a Lumiao? Ning I Lumiao? No chat take your video, Chiptala, Buddhian Chiptala senior. That they yet you were. Let us see the sea. Nubas night a take away to cook yet from a dadashu. Any moment, sickly Sajara, the Diri Kata, the dear Lulushera. The deep she says to see with the Maris or Lulushera. Bama to look from no below. A day they shook out Polara. Would be outside with a bail. Shukoi Ayoha. Sickly say Jadwavi, Katwavi solution. I don't want teeny, so teeny. Let the leave, Ayo Sajan, Ella the Maria. The Warriors and the wallet. Change it or breathe it out. Change it or dead. The other days are Eddie strong already. The Jingan, the Jimomias were the killer. Energy core strong killer. City Tanshina. Tila Tanshina, the Lauduri Pedo, City Tanshina. City Tanshina, object of his relation. I will shot the chair, shoot the other chair, shoot at the chair. Guavia with a ladder. The deity was so deep, so I body. The cat, Yona Mandiago. Shooting at the later level. A deep near lady has seen Jedore. Then my Ubadana Savido. Pororo, to Korea, the Dinya, Ubadana, Hotel Body. We were the Shifuya to a solid out of the Yami. A Linda Grace up or later out of them. There are Bakilo to own Sora. Taibiro Madeka, Pamupim, Ayoma Sa. Tekisa Korea, so you did a shulo, you did a lolo, so you put the yokalo. Sisi Sasa Lolo, so let a little Manamani. The one you shan't have your generation. That is a Korea cover. Mayamana Lolo, Yanarachi, you. Go Nani, Kilita now. My yellow knowledge, Kilita, one year. They have never lady learned the body. Down a Natita Kriata. Mayamana Sia. So you they auto chain. Sisi Sasa auto chain, Mayamana auto chain body. It's a lady a parlor as well. Eddie check don't you go now, Levido. Kurega Pave, Popo, Liponia, are you Mapuya? You the other? Sisa Yade? Don't ask yet, Ching Asia. Eddie, don't watch Yari, Nani, Lucia. The Dita Maris, the killer, Vido. No pain, a low. The K a sheep. Now your diary, you know diary, couldn't deal at all. The ballet, since I never know. Belules, since I won't know. Bajo less, since I won't know, no one say out of the chain. To say I jumped up, say I jewelry. Queen said in a chili of a little killer. A low pin a thing you. A joya femua. Malo Pene, since I am bear Roma femia. That the low art. A loom of Bavenero, Beninema, 16 Geraro. Dilamas in Jerusalem, Dilamas in Geraro, I am seeing 60 Geo Anthology, Medina. Did yogi me an alabuaro. Yogi P. Can you rest for Egoga? Yogi to me a sugar mamma, Piatini was a body. Loma Echi, Chana Tabido, Janet Lima. Korea Sabido, Legipore, Ayo, Malota Manibua. A lot of Kuada, maybe a low bear, maybe a town, Wezra. As a Gigi Cheta, now Levido. Yogi Jet Jam, Mayoni on the Yao. Ah, the near the Yoga, I took that the Yoga. So we don't worry. The Lara Kuliko Hanera, Chikonano, and Leve, Laya Jolly Namaho. So Yogi, a Janet, she had it on. Another Janet, she looks in Poido Diva, Buddha Loja, Nilam Mango, Jesus, my shadow, over at all time. Metagruna Tavido. We can let the man let sound go. People are yoga. I don't know yoga, Euro, she was in there, your limber.
In previous days, Sayadawgyi spoke about how among the large fields of observation that exist, Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma, the body, feeling, consciousness, and other general activities. Among those four, the most obvious one is Kaya. And Sayadawgyi spoke about how the yogis need to give priority to Kaya, as instructed by the Buddha. Among the different types of matter, or Kaya, there are those that are the basic building blocks, and there are those which depend upon the basic building blocks. So the fundamental building blocks are the ones that are the easiest to see, rather than the types of matter that depend on those. And those four are the four great elements: the Patavi, Tejo, Vayu, Apo, earth, the temperature element, wind, and water. So we start with these four, and among these four, the easiest to see is Vayu Dhatu, or the air element, because it manifests as stiffness, tension, movement in our body. It's what happens most of the time, and it is the most obvious thing. So according to the principle in vipassana, yatha pakatang vipassana biniveso, that the starting yogi should begin vipassana practice with the object that is easy to see, evident. So among all the different types of matter that there are, we give priority to the most obvious. And that means that when we are sitting, the abdomen rises and falls, and we observe this using a label, and anupassana occurs, repeated observation of the object. So the essence of vipassana, or the basic elements that make up anupassana, repeated observation, are atapa, ardent effort, sati, and sampajana, knowing. So among these, atapa, or ardent effort, is when we push the mind so that it will reach every newly arising, rising and falling. So when we do this, when we try to get the mind to the arising object each time, then this one of the elements of Kayanupassana is present. So one can't be casual about applying effort. One can't be slow either. The mind has to be alert and quick and decisive, wakeful. And if one applies effort in this way, then one element of anupassana, repeated observation, will occur. With the application of effort, sati sticks to the object. It arises automatically. And with sati, collectedness of mind also arises automatically. There's no need to make them arise particularly. The mind falls collectedly on the object of observation, and this is samadhi. In addition, we have to apply the jhana factor of focused aiming, so that the mind is able to connect accurately with the object. And if these occur, if all these elements occur many, many times, then energy develops and the mind becomes clean. So initially we have purity of sila visuddhi, and when the mind becomes pure, this is citta visuddhi, purity of mind. If the pure mind becomes strong, then we come to see that the object being observed is one thing, and the knowing of it is another. And this is purification of knowledge, deti visuddhi. So while we observe the object, our knowing becomes purified. And this is the start of vipassana. It is not yet vipassana knowledge, not true vipassana knowledge, but it is the beginning. It's when the light begins to come. So why is it that this comes to be? It is because when one sits, one starting with the rising and the falling, one makes respectful effort, and one has respect for the practice in trying to observe the object, the arising object. So one has to work consistently, work meticulously, and without a break. The way one has to work is similar to how one has to work when one is trying to make a fire with 2 sticks. One has to always be working and taking meticulous care to keep on working is SADHU. Plus, there is no time to rest. One can't stop. One can't stop to take any rest, because if one does, the kilesas do not rest. So if we take a rest, the kilesas will come into the mind. So we need to also have application of effort all the time, which is anattita kriya, to work without stopping. So in respect for the practice, meticulous care, and applying the method, applying effort without a break, also need to be present, these 3 qualities. And understanding this, whatever object arises in one's body, one should observe it with respect for the practice, with care, and applying ardent effort and aiming all the time. When effort is balanced, sati will arise automatically, samadhi will arise. And, and one will come to know for oneself the mind and matter that is within one. There won't be any need to think, what is it? Or why is it? Or how is it happening? As one observes, as one continues to observe, one will automatically know how things happen. So the knowledge arises due to the work that one is doing. And knowledge will not arise without application of effort. It won't arise if one simply thinks about things. There's no way that it can. If sila visuddhi, purity of sila, is not present, then chitta visuddhi also will not arise. So that is why it is said that the yogi should observe all the time. One should put one's attention on one's body and observe the arising object with effort and aiming. And this is the one and only job that a yogi has. There's nothing else that is needed to do. So if one thinks that while one is here, one is just going to go about and try another method, then one won't get the benefit of the practice. So some yogis here have this idea of practicing other than the instructions. And Sayadawgyi is giving the Dhamma gift in accordance with what the Buddha taught, as explained by the most venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, with loving kindness and compassion. So if he is explaining the method, and if one decides that one is going to work according to another method while one is here, it amounts to just throwing away the gift that Sayadawgyi is giving, the gift of Dhamma. So Sayadawgyi hopes that there are no such yogis here.
Guru Tripitang Bhavana Tiyane Masong Machomude Say the Pokori Boli Jomu Malo Mayini the Pokori Any Pokuria Go my she the Yona Diario Don't you sepon in Matidero Nagoa Suelia, but you fool. You mean a Yotiaria Niliana without good she needed Sravali. Me needed Sravali. A Suelia came. Kauza Chanda Sravali, Miara, Kaujara, Kaunayasa, Tira, Takao, Kono Kaunji Boli. Kaunu Latina. Kolo Day Bamazu Chita, Sravali. Dilo leve Sueli di Sida Pareto. Eddie Sueli Ma, Chumia Sueli Sivada. Attention in a Conley Shirolo. Eddie attention in a Jiwada for a Conlego. Take a Conley Perma Jiwaboli, Perma Atama, take out her Lolo. That was a Shania, Eddie Paramatamayi, a low time fear, the Lolo body. That was very low one hour. That was very clever thing that I looked to see another. Clary thing that I looked in another. Eddie Sueliga. Did I tell you I saw you to see it of it? Huru Boa later the Shigera. So anything. Eddie is very poor only the Mia, she did the Miaro. Where Mantia Mianamu Mantia Tima Mantia Yanama, I don't see how go alone here. Gorega to get she a host in it. Jokiari, Tia also alone here. David Nadia, let Tia alone here. Hello, Tia, look at Kavuma. Tama Luna Uria, you never yabo. Pimington and Luna Uria Shia. Now, Conet and Mangakoya. Hello, Uria Lucia. Konama, Mijawabu. Yoga Tima Dalam Jawa. A good teacher to Yoga Yadora. Tire Matayalum Shiriva. Jamai Chude Pugoro Matiala Atulucia. Jamai Kondora, Yoga Honey Jogora, and Yaishiva. They would do never go to Matiato Lucia. 30 set or a level that I let Yaishiva. Amakamare. Yogi is a lopa, Mayongi Onomiao. Yogi in a doggy solution or Yone time. Take it a career, you take a look at each year. That is a career, Mayamana, look at each year. The Karamadi the Kuna to send it out. So you didn't say such a low Pidavi solution. The Mari Pina Sura, no Paya the Karela Ladora. The mistake Gino Lopo Maloro. The Mandiari Tio Lopo Maloro. A Lolo Gila. Every time Josagoya, poetry, the Yasa Surega, living in a Tatomare.
People who have never encountered the practice of Satipatthana Bhavana, who are strangers to it, or who are not yet familiar with it, they don't yet see how what is in our being the mind and matter that is in our being is related as cause and effect. And therefore, their initial beliefs have not yet been eliminated. Belief that there is a person. There's a person who's existed from the time of childhood up until now. And the things wanting to see good things, hear, smell, taste, touch good things. Seeing is good. Hearing is good. Thinking that sense experience is good. And the belief that things happen because I want them to happen. They happen as I want them to do. And on top of these beliefs, attaching to the idea that there is a person, one also develops the belief in a soul. Within this being, there's a soul. And this soul is controlled by a supreme being, Parama-Atta. Beings, whatever movements, whatever things one does, these are because of the will of the Parama-Atta, the Supreme Being. So these beliefs come into one's mind. And also one thinks that things are beautiful. These are beliefs that come from the time we're young. They're beliefs that come from our past lifetimes. And they're quite firm. These attachments are quite firm. And until one practices and sees the true Dhamma, these beliefs cover over the way things really are. So we are working to try to know things the way they really are, to try to know the matter within us, to try to know the mind. And when we're trying to know things as they really are, we don't need just ordinary effort. We need to have ardent effort, intense effort. One shouldn't have any regard for one's life or limb. One shouldn't be afraid to experience pain. One shouldn't be afraid that one is going to get sick because of not sleeping enough. No one has yet died of doing the practice. And in fact, people with poor health have overcome their problems. Even people who were fatally ill have overcome their disease and continued to live. So, with faith in this, in the benefits that come from the practice, try. There must be faith. One has to have confidence that this works. And if one has faith and has decided that one is going to do the task, then there should be respectful application of the practice, sakata kriya. And there also should be continuity of practice, so that one noting is contiguous with the other, so that one noting follows another immediately, satya kriya, meticulous care. And one should also work without a break. So if one applies the practice in this way, then samadhi and panya, concentration and wisdom, will follow automatically. There won't be any need to try to make these things happen. And so that the yogis will try to apply the practice, Sayadawgyi has started out today by urging you in this way.
Oh, longer the body, tower. Jacobo Mave Luyelu Kite Suregoga, Dua Yade Suregoga, a good leshi, a UAT body. မိတို့ဟာလောကီပညာအလုံးလို့ရင်ကာမဂုဏ်နဲ့ပဲအချိန်ကုန်တာပဲကိုနားမလဲဘူးကိုနားမလဲတော့ကိုယ်ကတော့ဟုတ်တယ်တော့ထင်တာပဲခုနစောစောပိုင်းကပြောသလိုမြဲတယ်ကောင်းစားချမ်းသာတယ်ဘာလို့ဆိုကိုယ်လိုတိုင်းဖြစ်တာပဲလှပတင့်တယ်ဆိုတာပေါ့လေယခုဘဝမှာပဲအဲ့ဒီအစွဲကတော်တော်အားကောင်းတယ်အစွဲခိုင်းနေပြီတော်တော်မြဲနေပြီအဲ့ဒီခိုင်မြဲနေတဲ့အစွဲကိုချုပ်ဖို့ရအတွက်ပေါ့လေတော်ရုံတရုံအင်အားနဲ့မရပါဘူးအထူးအင်အားတွေအသုံးပြုရမှာပါအထူးအင်အားအသုံးပြုတဲ့အခါမျိုးမှာအသုံးပြုဆောင်မှာအကျိုးကမပေါ်လို့ရှိရင်ဒါလည်းပဲမဟာမောင်ဘူးဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါလိုတော့စဉ်းစားပြီးတော့နောက်တော့မဆုတ်သွားရဘူးဇွဲနဲ့အလုံးလုံးဖို့တော့ဒါတော့လိုပါတယ်ဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါမှဘုန်းကြီးတို့ဒီမြတ်စွာဘုရားဒီမှာပြထားပါတယ်မြဲတယ်ကောင်းစားချမ်းသာတယ်ဘာမှဆိုကိုယ်လိုတိုင်ဖြစ်တာပဲတည့်လှပါတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အစွဲကတန်းလာတာကိုအဲ့ဒီအစွဲလေးတွေတဖြည်းပြီးတော့လေဖက်ပြီးတော့ပုတ်ပြီးတော့အားလျော်လုပ်ပုံလေးတွေပြထားပါတယ်ဓမ္မ
So leave behind the idea of a past life. Just think about this life. We have a human life, and up until the present, one has worked to gain an education, worked to make a living, and spent a lot of time involved in sense pleasures. And not understanding oneself, thinking that this is the way things are, the way one seeing things as permanent, seeing things as good, thinking that this happens because of my choice, because of my will. And in this lifetime, this belief is very, very strong. We can't use just ordinary forces to overcome this belief. And while we are trying to apply special forces to overcome this belief, if we look at what is happening and we say, oh, no results have come yet, this isn't working, this isn't right. If we look at it like that and back off, that's not correct. One needs to be determined. The Buddha said that these beliefs need to be weakened, slowly, removed, slowly and gradually.
I think you go Boma, go Yoko Jiboma. Mere Kosa Chanda, Bamazu Kolo take it away. Did it Labare, Soeha? Then I must do Twachibo. Don't know Soya to Nerabu, Naibo Yazwa, don't know Soya. Naya Nebiro, Yeka Nebiro, La Nebiro, Neti to you. May you turn your kidney be a Israeli. Other as well, Genie, Yoko Jima. Kill me a body. Mere Yoko Jive, Makona Yoko Jive, Kolo Tan, Pama Machete Yoko Jive, Malava Yoko Jive. Kill me and kill, sure the Luha. Gakura Lohopo. Kekere a look over. Toto, Miyabu of Shibu. Nila now, Labiro, Eddie Nila, and Josa Lucia. Gakura. Uludema, Bagrimati, Mene, Ayare, Yama, Kuyina, Gilo, Yella, did the Pivita teaching Lociele, microscope, magnifying on the Kiara, says, Asana said, Chapter of Yanimara. Did of Mamma Power Tivita Gila Luci, area or Tonguya. Matisha, the Tifura, Tinchala, Vido. G.J. Haramiela there. You know, maybe you were saying how power he take here, where they are total. The power he tell Lama, power he plays on ma. They would a young idea, Jojo Sepoli body. Says it, Dimia Vido. The day Amaka Jashi, the Chanda will have 29 days to the body. There are none at all.
So like that, one has had the idea regarding one's body and one's life, that it's permanent, it's good, it's controllable, it's lovely, and hour by hour, second by second, we've had this belief. So in 1 hour, 3,600 times of this belief being reaffirmed in our mind. Hour after hour, day by day, month by month, year by year, these beliefs become very, very strongly ingrained, strongly entrenched. So the work to see this body as impermanent, not satisfactory, not having any inherent self, and not beautiful. This work is not easy to do, but it is not impossible. And when one understands the method and applies it, then it's easy to do. It's like when we need to use glasses in order to see something that we can't see otherwise. Or if we need to see something that is very small, we use a microscope or a magnifying glass that can enlarge things so that they appear to be much larger than they are, 10 times or so, or whatever. So the glass needs to be ground. We have to put power in the glass so that small things, very, very tiny things, become visible and are seen easily. Meditation is for putting power into one's mind. And only when this power is complete will we begin to see mind and matter and to develop knowledge stage by stage, and finally to experience true happiness. So one needs to understand this.
Loka Kowe Myesi ne Bagri Myesi neမြင်နိုင်တဲ့အရာတွေဆိုတာရှိပါတယ်အသက်ကြီးသွားပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မျက်စိမြင်အားနဲ့သွားပါပြီဒီတော့ရိုးရိုးမျက်စိနဲ့မမြင်နိုင်တဲ့အရာတွေကိုမျက်မှန်လို့microscope တို့ magnifying လို့ဆိုတာပါလေအဲ့ဒါတွေနဲ့ကြည့်ရပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါတွေအသုံးချရလို့ရှိရင်မြင်ကွင်းအာယုံနဲ့မျက်မှန်နဲ့သုံးဖို့microscope magnifying နဲ့တဲ့သွားလို့ရှိရင်ပြီးပြီးသားသားကြီးတွေ့လာတာပဲသို့တော့အဲ့ဒါကိုလည်းအသုံးချတာမှမထင်ရှားတဲ့မြင်ကွင်းနဲ့တဲ့အောင်လည်းပဲကိုယ်ကအသုံးချတာမှအနေထားလဲမှောင်လို့တာမှဒါမှမထင်ရှားတဲ့မြင်ကွင်းကိုပြီးပြီးသားသားတွေ့လာနိုင်ပါတယ်ထို့တူပဲ ကိုယ်တွေကတကယ်ရှိအဟုတ်ရှိနေတဲ့သဘာဝတရားတွေကိုဒီလေးဖွဲလေးတွေကအစရိုးရိုးအတိညာနဲ့မသိနိုင်တဲ့အရာတွေကိုသိဖို့ရအတွက်မိမိရဲ့စိတ်ကိုပါဝါတွေထည့်ပေးရမယ်ခုနမှန်မှပါဝါတွေထည့်ပေးသလိုပေါ့လေပါဝါတွေရှိလာရင်ပါဝါလိုတဲ့ပါဝါတွေပြည့်စုံလာလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီမှန်ပြောင်းတဲ့မျက်မှန်နဲ့ကြည့်မြင်သလိုပေါ့လေလိုအပ်တဲ့စိတ်ပါဝါတွေစိတ်တကိုးတွေပေါ့လေစိတ်အားတွေဝင်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ပြည့်စုံသွားတဲ့အခါမှာအလိုလိုကိုပဲမြင်လာမှာပါပဲဒီမှာဒီတော့ခုလိုတရားထုတ်ရတယ်ဆိုတာတကယ်ရှိတိမ်မွေ့တဲ့မထင်ရှားတဲ့သဘာဝတရားတွေကိုပြီးပြီးသားသားတွေ့ဖို့ရအတွက်စိတ်ဆွမ်းအားတွေဟောဒီစိတ်ပါဝါတွေထည့်ပြရတဲ့အလုပ်ဟာကူတရားထုတ်ရတဲ့အလုပ်ပဲဆိုတော့ဟောဒီယောဂီတွေရိုးသားသားလေးနားလည်ဖို့အရေးကြီးပါတယ်
In the world, there are things which one can't see with the naked eye. And when one is old, the eyes become weak. So, in order to see things that we can't see with our ordinary eyes, with the naked eye, then we need to use things like glasses or a microscope or a magnifying glass. And if we use these, if the object that we're trying to see and the lens are properly placed, then we'll be able to see the object. But it's only with the use of the glasses that we can do this. And so too, in order to see in our body the very fine, subtle things that one can't see with our ordinary intelligence, we have to add power to our minds. And it's like grinding the glass to be used in an instrument. We need to make it the right power. We need to add enough power to it so that we can see what we want to see. And so too in the mind, we need to add the necessary power and develop the powers fully, and then we will be able to see. So meditation is for seeing the things inside of us which are very, very subtle and fine, and it is for adding power to the mind so that one can see these things. So one must understand this and have respect for this idea. It's very important.
The Talon of Wallo, Mimi Yokujima, near Tore as well. Take Mamu Boli. Near Bulo, Mandai. Kimi on body. You go even my conda chanda to the as well, the go up. See him a conda, the Mandangio. You go even my attache there, go look at 15 and attache there to the as well. That is where you came to on. Not Atam she was the Amir Chilla on. Jogojia did a lava there to the as well. That is why you took out Madame Lava to the Amanda and nearly key on body. Near on Korea the Sabalo, lonely water. Eddie Korea the Sabalo, I don't charm. Archie on don't charm, Eddie Korea the Sabalo, body on so yes of ya. Majata Vada. De Uria, Nit the D, 3 Samadhi နဲ့ 4 Pinya ဉာဏ်နဲ့ ပညာတဲ့အဲ့ဒါကိုအသုံးချပါတဲ့အသုံးချကြည့်ပါတဲ့မရှိသေးရှောင်လုပ်ကြည့်ပါတဲ့အားနေလို့ရှိရင်အားမြောက်လုပ်ကြည့်ပါတဲ့အဲ့ဒါတွေလုပ်ကြည့်တယ်အဲ့ဒါတွေအားရှိလာလို့ရှိရင်ခုနစောစောဘက်ကပဂတိမျက်စိနဲ့မမြင်တဲ့အရာကိုပါဝါရှိတဲ့မျက်မှန်နဲ့ကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာဒီနေ့ရှားရှားပြီးပြီးသားဖြစ်တယ်လို့ပေါ့လေသိလာမှာပါရဲ့အဲ့လိုမြတ်စွာဘုရားအမိန့်ကြားထားပါတယ်
So in order to think that this body and this life, to think that it is not permanent when we have been thinking it is permanent, to be able to see it as suffering, to see the body as suffering when we've been thinking about it as pleasant, to be free of the idea that there's a soul, to see our being as anatta, without a controlling self or soul, when we have thought of it as having a soul. To see it as it really is, not as not being lovely, when we've been thinking of our body as a beautiful thing. In order to see in this way, we need an instrument. We need some instruments, and we need to use these instruments. So the Buddha said what these instruments are that we need to use. And they are, first of all, virya, effort. Second, sati, mindfulness. Third, samadhi, concentration. Fourth, panya, wisdom. And the Buddha said that we need to use these in order to see. So we need to, if they are weak, we need to develop them so that they are strong. And if because of developing them they become strong, then it will, we can see things that we aren't ordinarily able to see when we use glasses, so too we will be able to see clearly. This is what the Buddha.
ဒါကြောင့်အသုံးချလို့ဖြစ်နေအောင်ဝိရိယတတိသမာဓိပညာဆိုတဲ့ဒီလက်နဲ့တင်နေပါလေလက်နဲ့အစုနဲ့တက်ဆင်ပြီးတော့ရုပ်ကိုယ်ကြီးကိုအမှန်တိုင်းမြင်အောင်ပေါ့ရှုကြပါဆိုတာပေါ့လေရန်သူကိုကိုယ်နိုင်လို့ရှိရင်လက်နဲ့ပြင်ကြပါလက်နဲ့ကောင်းအောင်လည်းလုပ်ကြပါဒါမှရန်သူတိုက်လို့ရမှာပေါ့တလုံးတစ်ဘဝလုံးကကိုယ့်ကိုအပေါ်စီးရခဲ့တဲ့အတွင်းကိလေသာရန်သူတွေကိုကိလေသာရန်တွေကိုကိုယ်အသာစီးရရင်လို့ရှိရင်သူတို့ကိုနိုင်တဲ့လက်နဲ့အပြင်းရမယ်အကောင်လုပ်ရမယ်ထမြောက်လုပ်ရမယ်ဒါကိလေသာနဲ့အသာစီးရနိုင်တာကတော့ခုနဝိရိယတတိသမာဓိပညာဓာတ်တွေပဲအဲ့ဒီလက်နဲ့တွေကောင်းမှဝိရိယလည်းထက်သမှရဲရဲမှတတိယလည်းဆွဲမြဲလာမှစိတ်ဆူဆီးမှသမာဓိရလည်းကောင်းလာမှသမာဓိကောင်းပြီးအောင်လည်းမစိတ်နဲ့တဲ့ပြီးတော့သဘောမှန်လေးအစစ်စစ်သိမိလာမှစိတ်ဟာရင်းကျက်လာတာရင်းကျက်လာမှခုနကြုံရတဲ့အောင်နဲ့ဆက်ပြီးတော့တတိလွတ်ဖြစ်ခွင့်ရှိတဲ့ကိလေသာတွေကိုကိုယ်အသာစီးရလာနိုင်လာမှာအဲ့တော့တနည်းအားဖြင့်အခုတရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတာဘုရားဆက်စကကိုယ်အသာစီးရတဲ့ကိလေသာတွေကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေတော်လှန်တဲ့အနေနဲ့လက်လက်တွေကောင်းလုပ်နေတာပဲဒါပဲ
So for this we need to use virya, sati, samadhi and panya. We need to use this group of weapons in order to see ourselves as we are. The Buddha said that before the enemy arises, we need to make our weapons. And these are the weapons that we can use against the enemy need to be developed. So the enemy within us are the kilesas. They have had the upper hand over us all our lives. And in order to conquer them, we need to make weapons, and we need to make them keen and effective. So our virya needs to be keen so that we'll be brave. Sati, only if there's virya will there be sati. Sati also needs to be strong. Only with sati will there be samadhi. Only with samadhi and accurate aiming so that the mind is accurately observing the object. So these things need to be developed. And when we do this, when we develop all these factors so that there's virya, sati, samadhi, accurate aim, then the mind becomes mature and strong. And at that time, because there is sati, the kilesas that would have arisen if sati were not present have no chance. So at that time, we are able to conquer the kilesas. So what this practice is revolution against the kilesas, which have been like occupying enemy in our lives all this time.
Dhamma don't travel so yeah. We go some name ha. Sit to know about it. Da. Cheno titaro about it. Cook it. Da. Don't let him do. They the college in them don't. They matwa. They got 10 lima. Tempe de Dhamma lima. Koma, Dhamma, Japare. So the Telung to Waloma, Kirida go at SADHU Hero. Koma, Temete, a Gulu, Uria Titi Maripi, and Lenity. A Shiro Chin, Mama Malone, Shiro, she let Tony and Malone. Tell low about it. The tail looked at Kama, Dago, don't need a Dago, tail looking so. Jodo Goma, the Dwa and the top my average. Queen Jack tail, the Dwa and the top man. Yes, so be of Yeda Poppy about it, a Piamachi Poppy about it. Over they put Vele Posrava, Queen Jack about it. Pupa Mialusi, don't need a da. Now the baby, I don't know yo we don't tell her. The Dadu de Kama Jodo Boma Da Anita Mabule, Mieda Pute people Dadu de Pokuma down Shiva. Dalu Baba Yogia level Nula Chinga Savilo, Koma Tibido Polare Auna Shiva de Saint Quincha Teo. Take Piamano. That is the cut hammer, yo. They let Tiame. Set for the Mahari, Malota, the Kadamo, Money also, as you would have to eat the Mari, don't shop, put a piano. Pore, I am a Nera put a piano, Quinja put a piano. He put a village. Nagoa. About the pony, don't say her. She'll be taking a pillar from a dollar. I don't that with a pocone, who dare to let poco to take 2 hours to her. Do you like Matagan Yanat Hala? Did I be her? Did I don't jow? ရုပ်ရတဲ့ဒီတိုင်းပဲအခုလိုအခွင့်သာတဲ့အခါမှာသွေးကြီးလက်တည်ပြီးကိုယ်လည်းပဲသွေးမှထည့်မယ်ဆိုတော့လည်းနားလည်ပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ခွင့်ကြပေါ်သွေးအာယောကိုအခုစိတ်အားစိတ်ချိန်သားကြပြီးတော့ရှုမှတ်ပေးဖို့ဒါယောဂီများတောင်းရှိပါတယ်ကိုယ်တောင်းမကြည့်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့တစ်တလုံးတစ်ဘဝလုံးကစိတ်ဟာလည်းပဲဒီလိုပဲတုံးရသွားမှာပဲဒါပဲဒီတော့တရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတော့မိမိရဲ့စိတ်ဖက်ဖက်ကထက်မြအောင်ပေါ့လေတုံးနေတဲ့ဟာတွေကိုပေါ့လေတဖြည်းဖြည်းယောဂပြီးတော့သွားအောင်လို့စိတ်အားစိတ်ချိန်သားပြီးတော့အမြဲတမ်းမှတ်ဖို့ရမိမိတို့ရဲ့တောင်းမယ်ဆိုတာပေါ့လေနားလည်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေအချိန်ရှိတော့အခါလေးအဲ့ဒီအချိန်ကိုအကျိုးရှိစွာနဲ့တုံးချပြီးတော့ဘောဇတုကတုံးနေတဲ့ဉာဏ်သုံးဖို့တုံးနေတဲ့စိတ်တို့ထပ်ပြီးအောင်ကြိုးစားအထုတ်နိုင်ကြပါစေလို့လေးလေးနက်နက်တိုက်တွန်းရတဲ့ဒီနေ့တရားအဆုံးသတ်လိုက်ပါတယ်
So if you're going to use a knife in the kitchen, for example, to cut something, to cut fruit or to cut meat or to cut wood, the knife can't be dull. One won't be able to use it if it's dull. So a knife has to be sharp if one is going to cut. All one's life, the defilements have had the upper hand, and our knife, the knife of the mind, with virya, sati, samadhi, panya, these factors, like a knife, have either not been there or they are dull. So one has to sharpen these factors, like sharpening our knife. If we sharpen a knife, we need to use a whetstone, and we have to place the blade of the knife properly on the stone. We need to wet the surface of the stone, and we need to draw the blade across the stone in the right way to develop the edge. So one has to do this again and again, and as we sharpen the knife on the whetstone, slowly the edge becomes sharp. So one needs to place the knife properly on the stone in order to create the edge, the sharp edge, and one needs also to draw the blade of the knife over the stone again and again. And this is our job when we are trying to sharpen a knife. For the yogi, one has to observe the arising object with effort, so that sati sticks to the object, sati and the mind, and so that the aim is accurate. And one has to, with accurate aim, also, it's as though the mind rubs against the object. The mind has to stay with the object so that it's connected. It's really like rubbing against the object is one way it is said. So one has to note effectively in this way so that the mind actually rubs against the object. And if we do this, then the dull mind will become sharp. So it is the process of trying to sharpen the mind is a lot like trying to sharpen a knife. And one has to, because of the way one has to place the knife accurately and continue to draw the knife over the stone. One can't stop before the blade is completely sharpened. So when one's aim is accurate, one has to aim accurately, and one also has to apply effort to observe whatever object arises. And this is the yogi's job. So if one doesn't do this, if one doesn't develop the mind in this way, then all of one's life, the mind and knowledge are going to be dull. So one needs to keep the mind from getting dull. One needs to apply effort and aim accurately every time there is an object to observe. So Sayadawgyi hopes that all of you will be able to sharpen your mind, sharpen your knowledge, so as to overcome dullness